What up, nerds? Welcome to another Weekly Reads, a video where I chat about all of the things that I've read over the past week, just any insights or takeaways I think you might find interesting. So whether you're here looking for your next great read or you're just curious what I've been sticking my nose into, welcome. I'm glad you're here. If anybody happens to know more than an average Joe 8224, you have not replied to my comments. I have not received an email for you to get your address to send this book to you. You have until Wednesday. What is next Wednesday? The 25th. You have until September 25th to email me to claim your prize, or I'm going to redraw. So if anyone happens to know this person, if they're active in any other book community, please hit them up, let them know they need to be getting in touch with me with that address before I have to pick another person to send that ARC to. Alright, done with the housekeeping, now let's talk books. Let's start with what I finished reading this week, and the first one in that stack is Valley by Stacey McEwen. This is the third book in the Glacian trilogy. It's an epic fantasy romance. Valley actually just released about a week ago from my friends over at Angry Robot Books. I knew it was going to be an emotional journey for me, and it did not disappoint. Even after reading 3 books by this author and knowing after the first 2 kind of what to expect, which is the unexpected. Stacey is one of the most unpredictable authors I have read in a long time. She takes the predictability of romance and just completely spins it on its head. If you think you're going to pick up one of these books and get a happily ever after, just go ahead and take that expectation off of your list of things to be expecting, because that is just not the case. I jokingly said in a chat at a meet and greet that I attended a few weeks ago with this author that I know better than to ask for a happily ever after with this trilogy, but could I just get a good for right now? And this is such an amazing trilogy. I am still in awe. I just recently finished it. I'm still in awe with what all she packed into this third and final book of this trilogy. I took forever to read it because I just didn't want to let go. The world building was extraordinary. The entirety of this story takes place in 3 different regions, and they are so different from one another, and her descriptions of these places are so vivid, so much contrast, which represents what's going on with these different characters. It's amazing. The world building is amazing. Stacey's writing is very lyrical. It's very pretty, but it's not over the top. I love the cadence and the beauty of it. I loved how this author wrote characters that made me fall in love with them. I was so emotionally invested. I'm still emotionally invested. These are characters I'm never going to forget, and I'm so excited because she has another duology coming out next year, and I've already been knocking on the door of Saga Press going, hey, let me hold one of them ARCs for y'all till I get my next paycheck. So would absolutely recommend this trilogy. I will be sitting down to hopefully form a cohesive review for this one, and we'll have that up on the channel very soon. My next completed read is one that I checked out from my library. It's a collection of short stories by Joe Hill called 20th Century Ghost. Before reading this award-winning collection of short fiction, the only exposure I've had to Joe Hill is the Lock and Key graphic novels, watched the show on Netflix, and then I've seen the movie The Black Phone, which I really, really enjoyed, and I'm very excited that they're going to have a second one of those. It's in the making right now. Coincidentally, one of the short stories in this collection is The Black Phone, and of course it's one of my favorites. Sadly, there were only 3 or 4 stories out of the 15 or so that are in this one that I really loved. There were 4 that I thought were okay, there were 2 that I thought were funny, and the rest I was bored out of my mind. This collection was my patron book pick of the month for September. It was chosen by Andrew's Wizardly Reads, who had a very different experience with this collection. So I'm going to link his video down in the comments below so you can check that out. That way you can start out with a more positive opinion about this collection before you see my review of this was a middle of the road, I'm glad I read it, but I won't reread it opinion. But those are the 2 that I finished this week. Now we can talk about what am I currently currently reading. I am still flying through the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I am just about finished with the 5th book, The Butcher's Masquerade. This book is so good. This series is amazing. I just cannot get over how much fun I'm having. The whole time I have been listening to The Butcher's Masquerade, and I'm just thinking how good it is and just how much intrigue and how deep this story is getting. So much is going on. There's so many different storylines, and there's this big one that still is a little vague. It's been slowly coming into focus over the last 3 books. And I just keep thinking back to what Brian Bell was telling me, how the 6th book was his favorite, and he's not alone. There's been several others that said that the 6th book of the series is their favorite so far, and I'm just going, how does this series keep getting better? I just can't reconcile how the 6th book can top everything that's come before it, but I am so excited to get to it. I know y'all are tired of hearing me gush about this series, unless you're Derry. Derry, I love you. You have been the absolute best with everything you've been saying on my videos about this series. I have gotten to where I live for your comments just as much as I am living for this series. But I know y'all are tired of hearing about it, but this is one of my top new favorite series. I think it's going to go right behind The Dark Tower. I think it is going to dethrone The First Law. And those of you who know how I feel about First Law, you're probably clutching your pearls in shock, but it's only because you haven't read the series yet. Read the series, I dare you, and then come talk to me about series ranking. The other book that I'm reading is The Ravening by Daniel Church. This horror novel I have been looking forward to, highly anticipating ever since I saw it got announced last year. So far, I've just read the beginning. It's not labeled as a prologue, but it feels like a prologue. It takes place in 2007, and it describes a very frightening, traumatic event. Only just begun, just dipped my toes in, gotten my feet a little wet. Here's hoping I get to sit down with it this weekend and get a big chunk read. Review is going to be coming very soon. This one releases on September 24th from my friends over at Angry Robot Books. I'll put a pre-order link in the description box below where you can also read the full book description. This is the same author who wrote The Hollows that I read and reviewed last year. So if you saw that one and that one sounded good to you, or you even read that one and loved it, you might be interested in getting a copy of this one. Now is when I would usually say, let's talk about what's next on my TBR. I have been reading so slowly that it's the same thing it's been for the last 3 weeks. So those titles are The Puzzle Box, a mystery thriller by Danielle Trussoni, and a reworked version of a science fiction fantasy novel called Save Game by Joseph Sale. That wraps up everything that I have been reading over the last week. I'm going to let y'all go. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks again to all of the Nerdy Narrative patrons, with a special shout out to the Nerds Radiant: Chad, Mel, John, Gail, Amanda, Ashley, Star, Tara, Anne, Amanda, Andrew, Kate, Ev, and Sharon.